Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks again for everyone showing up today. We've got almost a full house. I don't have any requests to be heard by citizens, so we will move on to item 4. Consideration and possible action on minutes of March 7th, 2022.
I'll move we approve the minutes as presented.
I will second.
Have a motion and a second on the minutes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 5, consideration and possible action on final plat of the landing at Waterloo in the southwest quarter, section 3315 north, 2 west.
That'd be me.
Yes, sir.
You know, head back me what you got in there.
I think on this first phase, we've got 20 of them. I mean, it's say 22 on the first phase. Second phase is being estimated right now.
Yes, we've identified the proper wording on the streets, so this is in over in my district, I believe, and I'll move that we approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the final plat of the landing at Waterloo. Any further discussion? Monty?
I have none.
Okay.
I'll vote aye.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Yeah, thank you. One of the additions up there at Cedar Valley is also called the Landing.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know which one. Just thought it sounded good right there.
Not too bad.
I heard landing before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The landing at Waterloo.
It's Bo Martin's.
Yep.
Got a lot of movement on there already. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute.
This is Waterloo and Cedar?
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah, this is mine.
you still voted yes.
This is in that, yeah, this is in that area they've been clearing for the last year.
Yeah.
What else are they putting up there?
It took us 4 years to get the sewer worked out. That's a lot more than EPA and all that, so.
So what else are they putting in that area?
We'll do mixed use, commercial and residential.
Somebody, I had 7-Eleven contact me, said something about putting in it.
It's not allowed under what is confidentiality agreements. You're in the know. There's a lot of good, there's actually quite a few contracts.
If you don't mind us asking, what was the agreement that you reached with the water district on sewer?
We've already put in a lift station and force main, ran it over to a couple of the detention ponds up north.
Okay.
Then we've got approval by EPA to put in a sewer treatment plant as the flow goes up.
Okay. Kind of an adaptive system.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing to get approval on.
Yeah, they're kind of,
So that took, but excited about that because now you can pretty much double 160.
right.
Well, I would like to come out and chat with y'all sometimes.
That'd be great. Yeah, I'm Tommy. I don't have a card, but you know, we're right there across the street, actually, at that big building. That's where we office.
Okay.
Thank you, man.
Well, good
All right,
luck.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Thank
All right. Item 6, consideration of possible action to award bid number 2022-19 for conversion of 2007 Stuart Stevens truck for Sooner Fire Department, tabled from February 15th, 2022. Howdy.
How you doing?
Doing well, sir. What's up, Chief?
Was hoping to see y'all bless us to build this truck.
You got a recommendation for us?
I didn't bring my phone with me.
I had the email from within the department asking for J&J.
Yes.
It was the lowest bid.
I'll make a motion we approve J&J being low bid.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve J&J as the low bid. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Appreciate it.
Motion's approved. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Appreciate y'all.
Item 7, consideration of possible action on detention transportation claim for January 2022 in the amount of $211.65.
I missed stamping these, just signed all three of you right there.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the transportation claim. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We did get a stamp on here, so if I find it in my signature, it'll be great. Both of them?
Yeah, that's a different item. It's
Oh,
item eight.
okay. Item 8, consideration of possible action on detention transportation claim for February 2022 in the amount of $221 or $121.49.
Make the motion to approve.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve transportation claim for February. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Once again, thank you, sir. Item 9, consideration of possible action on resolution accepting $5,000 donation from COE Consulting LLC to District 2 for approximately 408 tons of rock on Hiawassee Road, approximately 1/10 of a mile north of Forest Hills.
This is somebody that's reached out to us and they're wanting to help get some material to put out on the road, so he was generous enough to come forth and ask him what it would cost, and just want to donate.
Well, I make a motion, we approve the donation.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the donation of $5,000 to District 2. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Yes, sir. Okay, item 10. Discussion with county fire departments regarding purchase of a truck and a dozer for fighting wildfires.
This is something that I wanted to put on the agenda, and the reason why is here this year we've been called out to multiple fire departments or fires from multiple fire departments. Most recent one was assisting with the Mulhall fire, and a lot of the times when these wildfires get out of hand, it's a time when they need heavy equipment to kind of make fire breaks and stuff like that. So we've brought our equipment out there. Monty brought his equipment out there, and we did a pretty good job of trying to get everything wrapped up. And using our equipment is fine. We want to volunteer that equipment anytime we can. Try to help save property and people's homes and people. I've talked to some of the fire chiefs, and we've got a Fire Chief Ware here, and we've got one of the captains from Langston here, and it's something that I would like for y'all to kind of put your input on. Pretty much what we What I've been looking at is if there's any possibility of the county, with the assistance of the fire departments, on purchasing a truck, trailer, and dozer specifically for the use of fighting wildfires in Logan County. And who's gonna maintain it, who's gonna keep it, that can be discussed between the fire departments and the Board of County Commissioners. And, but that's just something I kinda wanted to talk and get everybody's input on. And I plan on attending the Chiefs meeting on Monday in Mulhall, to kinda talk to them more about it, so.
Okay.
I mean, I think it'd be a pretty decent idea, especially if it keeps pulling you guys out of the way, but I think it'd be a good discussion for all the chiefs to sit in on.
Yeah.
Monday night would be a good time to corner us all up.
I can tell you my thought. I mean, my thoughts is, I mean, normally 2-3 times a year, maybe. I just can't see spending taxpayers' money. You know, you're talking about at least $500,000 to buy all of it, and you're gonna use it 2 or 3 times a year. And I just don't think it'd be a very good investment from my perspective. But if the fire departments wanna buy it, so be it. They got their own account, own money. I mean, I would support anything they wanted to do, but.
Yeah, if they want to pool their sales tax money and,
Right.
and buy that and use it.
But I think it's a pretty big investment for really no more than what a normal year. I don't think this year has been all that normal, but I just think it's a big investment. But that's just my opinion.
Okay.
All right.
This is, this item doesn't have an action on it other than.
I mean, you guys, I mean.
To me, it's a discussion that
Sure.
fire
it's
chiefs need to,
discussion.
Right. And again, like Lonnie said, we'll support whatever you guys want to do, because, I mean, there's nothing more important to to the safety of our county than our volunteer fire departments.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
We believe that.
yeah, just
What about the
that-
forestry department? Do they?
Well, normally forestry brings trucks in when we have high fire danger.
Right.
We stay all we stay in connection on what's going on. Forestry normally sits at Guthrie when we have fire dangers. So when this came to me, pretty much this is something I think all 13 chiefs ought to get together and talk about.
Right. Yeah.
That's not a one-man decision, I don't think. I think that belongs.
Oh, I
to-
agree with you. Yeah.
So,
I mean, what do you speculate a truck and a trailer and a dozer would even cost?
Well, I mean, it just depends on if we go used or new or.
And I mean, I think the cheapest route out would, be $500,000. I just think that's a big investment for 2 or 3 times a year when we already have the equipment.
right. And
That's-
forestry does come in on bad fire days.
Right, yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's just my thoughts, but I definitely support the fire departments if that's what they want to do. But I don't think I would take any money from our general government to help buy it, so. I would not support that. But I'd consider it. I mean, everything's up for discussion.
Okay, any further discussion on that item? Anything else, guys? Steve, anything from you?
No, the only thing I could think of is maybe using the county hazard mitigation plan, for the grant funding, to see if that might cover any of it. I can do some checking in, and then whenever I go to the fire chiefs meeting, I can see what I found out from the state to see if that's an option too.
Okay, great idea. Anything else? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item 11. Discussion of ARPA funds and requests for expenditures and possible uses for county improvements. So the first thing that we want to do is talk about the ARPA funds, which is the last page of this packet. Oh, you already done? All right. So this is what we've talked about to date. And again, none of this stuff is etched in stone. But we've got, currently we have on hand, $4.65 million on deposit at the county. And we have the following draft projects and a draft division of available funds for the total $9.3 million that we're going to receive. We'll get the other $4.65 million in May of this year. So what we looked at, what we talked about was dedicating or putting $6 million in the 6-story building remodel cash fund, 1.5 million in the county commissioner's road and bridges, 0.75 million in the sheriff's jail roof and patrol vehicle refresh, $500,000 in courthouse security system refresh, which would cover the siren interface that you wanted to talk about, Steve, that you had.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's in that courthouse security. There's a list of smaller projects that go in there. One of them being a badge ID door electronic access system for the courthouse and the other buildings at the courthouse, the annexes as well. The county employee COVID fund, I keep
Premium pay.
premium pay. Okay, so that's called premium pay. I'm trying to remember that. And so that's $300,000, and then $250,000 to the county health department. The details on there, again, we currently have 4.65 million. Expenditures do not require excise board appropriation approval. They do get notified that the money's been divvied up and will be expended, right? Or when we,
Well, they do the cash fund appropriation when we receive the 4.6. Now we'll set up the transfer and they just notify
Yeah.
those, yes.
okay. Unencumbered or excess funds can be transferred between the above draft project accounts. So if the 6-story building was 5.2 million instead of the 6 that we had in there, we can move the 0.8 to another account and continue to use it. So we can move money between these accounts without much issue, without an issue. All ARPA funds must be encumbered not later than December of 2024, is that right? And all ARPA funds must be expended not later than December 2026. I remembered all that from the meeting.
I'm proud.
It's amazing. Okay, so a couple of notes. Our county health department, appreciate those folks showing up, and they had what they're wanting to do is put a drive-through station that's got garage doors on both ends where people can drive through and get tested and all that stuff, so they can kind of isolate themselves and the public from each other, so they don't have people that are possibly infected with a disease coming into the indoors to the county health department. So they brought a cost to us of $150 a square foot just for a metal building. I believe that had to be a finished building, because we can buy metal buildings erected for a whole lot less than that, and I've been looking at that on the internet. Matter of fact, I had a $20,000 bid for a 30-foot or 20-foot by 40-foot long building that would, because a 20-foot wide building will fit on the road, you know, behind the health department, and that was like $20,000 without the slab and all that other stuff. So anyway, the other thing with the health department is there was a question about premium pay for their people, whether we needed to include them in the premium pay, And I've got an email saying that we don't, because they've already received, each employee received $500 in premium pay, so. That brings up a question on premium pay. I thought that was by the hour and how many hours they worked and all that.
They got that from the COVID funds, not from the ARPA funds. So that was a different funding mechanism that the state had, and the state paid that, so I don't have all the details.
So.
Under premium pay for ARPA, it is an hourly calculation.
So why would the health department folks be excluded then? If it's a different fund and different rules?
Well, I'm assuming from what her email said that the state said no, so.
So
Okay.
Morgan, on the courthouse security, that's just not for, that's for several different projects.
Yeah, if we need to replace windows, it's kind of a catch-all bucket for that. What we wanted to have as a primary project in that is the electronic locks that we had talked about, where our fob badges would unlock the doors and keep track of who's coming in and out and where they're going, and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but you mentioned Stephen had something on that as well.
Stephen asked for, and it was a small piece. I mean, what he wants is a system that will automatically take the NOAA weather alert system and transfer that to the sirens, automatically turn the sirens on. Steve, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, it's called Commander. It's to update the storm sirens around the county, and then also the system that operates the storm sirens. Whenever I got the last quote on it, I think it was around 50,000 to update it all.
So, but the hazard mitigation plan, that's kind of a grant system?
So yeah,
That could
that
be-
would definitely follow under the hazard mitigation plan, updating the storm sirens and the computer and stuff on that. And so how that works is the county has to pay for the project up front, and then we would eventually get reimbursed for it.
I guess that was gonna be my question. Do we need to plug in like a little bit of money so we can fund the hazard mitigation grants, then get reimbursed? Would this cover some of that?
There was a question with the ARPA being used in that manner,
Okay.
because of the way the reimbursements
Right.
sometimes work. I've actually submitted those questions and are waiting for answers.
For the auditors?
Yes, which I think has been filtered up to the feds, because it's ultimately their decision.
I mean, that was just thinking outside the box.
Sure.
If we need to put something back to fund the hazard mitigation, then get reimbursed on it, then we could put the money back where you.
Well, I think, again, I think there's gonna be some money we're gonna be able to move around and shuffle, and
Right.
we can always create a new cash account if we need to do that with, and, or we can leave it there and use it as a sub-bullet of.
So I think what would happen, just to try to simplify it, we would have an M&O account in this fund that would take care of that, or the new doors on the courthouse, or it would be an M&O expense for whatever was approved from them, so.
Sounds good.
Then the other thing, the county health department is, they're going back and looking at the building that they talked about, and they're gonna get some more details to us on what kind of a bid they got from who and that sort of stuff. They didn't have a lot of the details, but I honestly believe that we can put them a very nice addition to their current building in place, using the road behind the health department. It would probably cause us to block that to civilian traffic until they opened up their doors, to have people go through. But I think we can do that for under $100,000. But they've got some other requests to be able to put new refrigerator, freezers in for, you know, the different, inoculants that they have. Some of them have to be kept very cold, so they're just kind of out of space over there for that kind of stuff right now, as far as storage goes. So they'll be bringing us back some more details on how to do that. But I'm absolutely positive that $250,000 will cover anything and everything that, you know, they would ever want to do over there. Any other discussions?
No, I'm good with it.
I'm good with it.
Okay. All right, so we've got that. One of the things that I wanted to bring to the board's attention also is, Saturday, Mr. Terry Hickson brought over this agreement, from ZFI Engineering that we talked to them about doing some stuff for us. One of the things that they did was they provided, they outlined the scope of services for 3 different tasks. Task number 2, I believe, was the primary task we wanted them to do, which was evaluate the interior walls to ensure that, you know, we could take them out or we couldn't take them out, you know, if they were load bearing and all that. It seems from preliminary looking that some of those walls can be taken out, but to have a structural engineer come in and do the assessment for us would help a lot. The other thing that Mr. Hickson said is that we will be, when we start to work over here, we're gonna need to hire a construction manager and architectural engineer, full-time, not full-time, but as a part of the project, because the architect will be the one that'll be responsible for interfacing with all of the mechanical folks and all that stuff on how things go in there, right? The structural engineer, they don't do that kind of work. And the other thing that Terry said was that we need to make sure that, because there is a little contention in the construction industry, right? Because we live in a litigious society, and different groups sue other different groups for, you know, not doing things the right way. But his point is that we need to have a construction manager and an engineer or an architect that get along with each other and don't have a litigious background, because you don't want them fighting with one another. He will be at our next meeting, the 31st, to go over some of this stuff with us. So he was talking about, you know, that task 2 is what we really was going to need from a structural engineering service. The other tasks might be good, but he said he would talk to us about that on the 31st, give us some more information on that. The other thing he pointed out to me on page 5 that has to do with task number 3, right? It says, the second paragraph from the bottom, ownership of documents. It says all documents produced by the SER under this agreement shall remain the property of SER and may not be used by the client for any other endeavors without written consent. So if we contract for them to give us a set of plans, you know, with the laser and all that stuff, those plans won't belong to the county under this agreement. So that's something that we need to be aware of. Any questions on this that I can help with?
I'm sure I will have, I just don't have it right yet.
Okay, well, I mean, take your time and look through that, because it's absolutely
Well, certainly don't like it. If we're gonna pay them to do it, I mean, we ought to own it.
Right.
I mean,
If we're gonna
I think we need
pay
to-
for the services.
I think we need to hash that out before we get too deep.
Right, right. So, right now, for, item 3, what is it? They want, $14,000 if they own the documents.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what they're gonna want. So task 2 is almost $4,000, and it's a fixed fee for assessing the walls that can come out and not. I'm not sure that we needed to do task 1, because there will be, the construction architect will be the ones that will be doing that. But again, Terry will be here at our next meeting to discuss
I
that.
mean, my thoughts,
Okay.
task 2 is the first thing that we need to do.
Right.
And that's gonna tell us if we wanna continue or not continue.
Absolutely, that's exactly what Terry was saying too.
So we don't need to do action on this today.
No, there's no action on, this is just a discussion of the ARPA funds, this is being paid for with ARPA funds, and this was some specific information that I became aware of Saturday, and I wanted to share with you guys. So, any other discussion on item 11?
I have none.
None.
All right. Ma'am?
I have nothing for 12 and 15.
Okay, that's even better news. All right. Item 14, consideration of possible action on approving the following road crossing permits for Logan County Rural Water District 1. Henny Road, 0.16 miles north of State Highway 33, and Henny Road, 1,675 feet south of the northwest corner of section 14, 17 north, 1 west.
This is over in my area. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the road crossing. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. Item 15, discussion and possible action on the consent agenda. Logan Marvin's on here. Mr. Young is doing.
I'm seeing 2 messages.
Which is,
And
he spends all his time with the doctor, right?
we can't go to it yesterday, but that's the only day he's asked.
Okay.
And I don't know if you noticed. On that, because he's still in the trailer, I did not do 100% of what you and I talked about.
Right.
I offset what the allowance has been for that.
Right. Well, that was the agreement when he moves out. He gets the,
So it went up a little bit based on the new wage, but not fully because of the, yeah.
so one of the things we might consider with Stephen too is we might consider getting him some real fish for his fish tank. He really needs something over there.
I thought you was gonna say find him something to do.
Oh, he's pretty good at that.
I got a lot to do.
If he had fish, I guess he could feed them.
Well, that's true, I forgot about that. There's a maintenance tail associated with that, isn't there? Yeah. Get real fish, you gotta buy real fish.
I tell you, he's up on the fire with this, and he's done a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
All right, no sneaking that stuff in on
Got pictures to prove it.
us. 8.5 by 11 color glossies.
They will be.
You already signed that one.
Heck yeah, I was gonna talk the game.
Transfers. Blankets. Officer reports. goes to Joe.
That's what I said. Making us all look good.
Well, you keep a little piece of that. Most of that goes to general.
Is that it?
That'll be it for consent.
I'll move we approve the consent agenda items. Unless I see something I don't care for the time it gets here, but I seriously doubt that.
I'll second. Have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda. Any further discussion? I'll wait for you, Mike.
I'm good. I see it right here.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 16, discussion and possible action on approving claims for payment for March 2022. Thank you, ma'am. I think. Wow, $321,000 in claims. What did we do? Oh. O'Reilly. No wonder. Got employees who just think that all they gotta do is go down to O'Reilly's and get stuff, and then we'll fill in the paperwork later. Cassidy, does get a large chunk of the posterior when they do that though. But some of them forget, usually. will make a motion to approve claims.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to approve claims for March 2022. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Item 17, discussion and possible action on purchase card payments for March 2022 in the amount of $2,713. Pot seal for kitchenware. I assume that's a cooking pot, not for leafy green substance.
It is possible. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. If you want to second. I'll second. Have a motion and a second to approve P card. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
They are approved. All right, we'll move on to the addendum. Consideration and possible action on approving use of sheriff's meeting room to be used by OK2A for monthly meetings and approval of policies for use in the meeting rooms. Did we get a copy of the policies that you guys? We can-
Did you bring a copy of it anyway?
No, ma'am.
Okay, you sent it to me in an email. I didn't bring a copy either.
I'm ill prepared, obviously.
Well, so am I. Yes, as am I. I guess we have a couple copies printed up. We send one to. But anyway, I think I can kind of cut this thing a little bit short. After reading the email from the sheriff, I tend to agree that there's a lot of other issues that we would open up here in the county by doing that. The first one that comes to mind is how do we manage the cash fund, for the rentals if we do that. Secondly, what happens if communist drunk mothers against sober gun shooters decide that they want to rent the place as well? I don't know if there's an organization like that, but I'm just kind of, putting that out there. What happens if, if a satanic organization wants to rent the place? And that's just something that, I think we would open up a whole First Amendment issue there.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I don't think that's the road we really want to go down. I think it'd be a bad idea.
I mean, we'd love to, I know the Oklahoma Second Amendment Association would love to be able to have meetings over there and do that kind of stuff. I think innocuous types of meetings like the Guthrie Chamber of Commerce has their coffee and donut meeting over there occasionally. I don't see an issue with that during business hours if the sheriff and his staff can accommodate that. I don't see a problem with it.
It's not like they're back in the training area anyways.
They were last night.
Oh, were they?
Yeah. But still, I mean, I don't remember the exact reason for them being there, but one of the things that they were introducing was the folks at office right behind.
Wings of Hope.
The Wings of Hope, that's right. So they were introducing them. There are new residents over there, and so it was one of those deals where they weren't collecting money, they weren't asking for money, they were, talking about what the county was doing to help the community.
Yeah, it was a chamber coffee is what they call it.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a meeting, just what's going on around town.
Right. so Damon, we've kind of bantered this around a little bit, and, again, I tend to agree with your assessment if you'd like to say a few words. Okay.
Well, I think as I put in my email, that this opens up the door to a lot of issues that we, as a county, should really be dealing with. The original purpose of this was to have a classroom for use by the county and government entities, if you will. And I think once we're going to be opening up to a lot of things that we don't want to be a part of, as far as the financial side of trying to figure out where we're going to put deposits or rental agreements or fees, to the point of we do have law enforcement officers over there inside that area, so there's an issue pretty much if there's an outside group meeting there. We look at what the cost of a deputy would be to maintain the security of that room while classes being held or meetings are being held, and I don't know that we want to go down that road.
I agree 100%.
Now, after,
I think it's a great thought.
Sure.
But after we've diced and kind of whipped it to death, it's just, I think it's a bigger problem than we should be involved with.
right, and when you and I were discussing it, it's more like, wouldn't it be a good idea if we could do this, and then.
Yeah, it's a great room.
Once we think about it for a little bit,
But
it may not be the best thing.
All the
for
strings that
county.
come attached to that prize is
Yep.
pretty scary.
So, I think, I would, ask that we, like, do no action on this. Or, if you wanna take action on it, say, to say that we're not going to rent it out to outside at this time, or it is within our purview to make those statements about county property.
That's a door I really don't think we ought to open myself, so if you want a motion to, I don't know how you make a motion to deny it,
Doesn't it have?
It could, yeah. Sheriff, Damon, how would you prefer we handle this?
Well, I would say essentially if you know, the agenda that's in front of you is to allow OK2A to use the facility. If the way I understand it is if nobody takes, you know, if it doesn't get a second, it dies. Or we could just simply say at this point in time, the county is not looking into opening that up to public entities or political entities for any use.
See, I think the latter of the two would cover us in the long run, right? So if somebody else, because if we just deny it to OK2A, that's just that organization, and then another one can come back, we have to take it up again. Does that make sense?
yes.
I mean, currently we have a contract with Wings of Hope, that's officing out of that area. And of course, they have access to that classroom for training. But I think we restrict its use to government style meetings only or agency, trying to figure out the best way to word that.
State and local governments.
Correct. Yeah, I think that it's like if Hagen wants to have a storm spotter training or
Right.
a meeting with the hazardous mitigation or something like that. I mean, it's county related. It serves a purpose. If it's going to be anything that's not related to a county type function,
Right.
it should probably be limited.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we not allow the sheriff's meeting room to be used by any non-state or local government agency, and that become a policy for the use of our meeting rooms.
I mean, if Monty wants to hold an IT class there, I'd let him.
Sure.
But, I'm just going off the agenda item, it's consideration of possible action to approve use of the sheriff's room
Yeah.
for OK2A.
Used by, yes.
So,
For monthly meetings, and approval
And
of
approval of policies.
policies for use in the meeting minutes.
Can I make a suggestion? You would modify your motion to say, to cover the fact that the action was to allow OK 2A, so it'd be not to allow OK 2A, or any non-state or local government agency. And I think you're covered.
I'm good with that. So be it.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second not to allow the use by OK2A or any other non-government, state or local government agencies for the use of our meeting rooms. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
It's a shame we gotta be that way, but that's just the
Yep.
way it is.
I agree. All right. Item 18, comments, announcements, questions by the Board of County Commissioners or other officers and department heads. Stephen?
Only thing I got is I've been working on the county hazard mitigation plan update. I got that submitted to the state for review. And so, once they review it, it'll go to FEMA, and then once they review it, then it'll come back, and then we can do a resolution to adopt the new hazard mitigation plan for the county.
Okay.
So, and then I'll be gone for training the last week of March for the state EM conference as part of my, as part of my EMPG grant that I work off of.
Okay, great. Troy, welcome. We don't get to see you very often here. I know that you stay pretty busy, hooked up over there at the sheriff's office. Anything that you'd like to say, talk about, or?
Nothing at this time. I would address the chamber coffee deal, that when the sheriff was out of the room. You know, that event is sponsored by us, kind of similar to open house. And I think that that's where we can engage as law enforcement and to talk about the services that we can provide and our partners in the community. So events like that in that training room, I think is very appropriate for us to engage with the community to talk about law enforcement services and partners that we partner with. So stuff like that to continue is pretty important to me. But outside of that, everything else that's discussed today sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think we agree with that statement as well. All of us, I believe. Sure.
I just echo what Troy said. I appreciate you guys, appreciate us having the availability to take on that room and give it a refresh, as we call it. And it's going to be a huge asset for us for training, as well as you guys, the fire departments, whoever. It's a great opportunity to have a training room like that locally under our roof, and it's greatly appreciated.
What? Mike?
I guess I'd like to talk about the purchase of the Dozer for the fire departments and what have you. Title II, Article 16, I think, under Forestry Department. I mean, I think, reading that, I encourage y'all to read it. I think we're bound by law to provide machinery on a fire if requested. That's just the way I read it. But anyway, if we did have a Dozer for them, I think 9 times out of 10, it's just gonna sit there. The hoses are gonna dry it up. If you don't use it, you kinda lose it.
Seals dry up, yeah.
I think it would sit there a bunch, and then if they do have a fire, how many tires are they gonna have flat on the truck, the trailer, and I just don't know if it'd be a great investment for the taxpayers. So, that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I'm not trying to say it's a horrible idea, but I think it's something that ought to be considered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's something that we would discuss with the fire departments. You know, who would maintain it, who would keep up the maintenance, who would make sure that everything's within working order, so that anytime that it's called out or needed on these fires, it would be mission ready. So that's one of the things that we have been looking at as far as trying to accomplish this and seeing what the possibilities are. Also, you know, getting with the emergency manager, seeing what assets or availability from grants or anything type of funding we have available from the state to help, or even at the federal level, if there's any type of help to help fund this. I know there's other counties that have done it, so I'm trying to find any local counties that have done it to see what they did to purchase that. So we're still looking into it. Right now it's just a kind of a discussion phase, and I will be attending the Chiefs meeting on Monday evening in Mall Hall to kind of go over some of the options with them.
Good. Thank you, sir. So the only thing I wanted to bring back up is the ARPA funds. The meeting on the 31st, gentlemen, I'd like to have a discussion with action to establish those accounts, that we believe are in the best interest of the county, to populate funding in those accounts, preliminary funding in those accounts. We have 4.6 million, I believe, 4.65 million, whatever it is, right now. And there are some accounts that we could start using before we get our second iteration in May. So, I mean, we could start on that. For example, the sheriff's roof is leaking over at the detention center. That's something that we could at least start getting bids for and things like that. And there are other areas. I think that we could distribute that 4.6 and change throughout the cash accounts, except for the 6-story building, which would have about, there's a 1 point whatever million that would go into there, and waiting on the rest of the 4.6 million to be deposited in the 6-story building, because that's going to be the long-term project, I think, of the county. When by the time we get that done, it's going to be down on those on that expenditure list. You know, we got to have it spent by 26, right? And I think that sounds about right for that building, you know, by the time we get it finished. But I wanted to give you all a heads up that on the 31st, I think it's time that we start on those. And anyway, I appreciate your indulgence. Anything else?
I got a question on that. On the 1.5 to county commissioners, is that going to be project specific? It's not? Okay.
Not unless you choose to make it that way. I think the intent was to divide it equally. We'll create a sub-account for each department to use it as they see fit. Unless you all choose to put some sort of, you know.
I thought we'd divide it by the mile.
That's something we
Just throwing that out there.
That's something we've talked about, and if it's got asphalt on it, it's 3 times of what a dirt road.
I'm down with that.
Okay. Anyway,
Not a problem.
let's see. On the 6-story building, what would be left over after fully funding the other 5 would be 1.35 million to start, and then in May the other 4.65 million would go into the 6-story building account. But that'll be for action on the 31st.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I'll entertain a motion on item 19.
I move that we adjourn.
I will second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, gentlemen.
Adjourn.